Hey there, it's Steve from Serious Keto, and in this video, we are going to try out 2 more products from the great low-carb bread company. If you watched my video review a few weeks ago of the great low-carb bread company, one of the things that I mentioned about their regular bread was I felt the texture was very much like sourdough, and I wish that the flavor was like sourdough. Well, it turns out they actually do have a sourdough bread, and that's going to be one of the 2 products that I'm going to try out in this video. Now, like their other products, the ingredient list is fairly short, although if you are strict keto, you may not be interested in some of the wheat ingredients that are in here. So, ingredients, we have water, wheat protein isolate, wheat fiber, wheat gluten flour, modified wheat starch, olive oil, inulin, salt, yeast, and enzyme. Serving size is 1 slice. Total fat, 3 grams. Total carbs, 8 grams, of which 7 is dietary fiber for a net 1 gram. And there are 7 grams of protein. I will be testing out this bread the exact same way I have tested out bread in every single bread review video, which is to say I will have 1 piece just plain, just to get a feel of what the bread is like in terms of taste and texture, and then I will have 1 piece toasted with butter. Additionally, I am wearing, if you can see it there, a Dexcom G6 continuous glucose monitor. If you did watch that video that I did previously on Great Low Carb Bread Company, you saw that their products across the board had minimal impact on my glucose, so I expect that will be the same here. The bread has got a really, I don't know what I would call that, sort of a stiff tear to it. I'm not sure how I would compare that to actual sourdough. I'm not picking up a ton of sourdough flavor. It does seem a little bit saltier than I remember their other bread being. Let me get a big bite of crust here. It does seem more moist than the original bread that I tried in that other video, but like I said, I'm a little bit disappointed in the lack of a strong sourdough sort of flavor to this. Next, I have a piece that is toasted and buttered. And before you complain that maybe my toaster isn't working, it works fine. It's just this bread, and I saw this with the other bread from Great Low Carb, is it doesn't toast up especially dark. If I run it, I mean, I just tore it there, it's definitely toasted, but if I run it through the toaster twice, enough to get it so that it looks like toast, it becomes way too dry. Almost like what is that, Zwieback? Is that the name of the toast that you give kids, little infants, when they're teething? That's what it became like. Okay, toasted with butter, I think has kind of brought out a little bit of those sourdough notes. It's still not super strong, but it reminded me what I loved about that other bread, which is how good it makes a grilled cheese sandwich or French toast. And I think we're looking at the same thing with this. Also similar to the bread and bagels that I had tested out previously from Great Low Carb, there is that sort of drying out my esophagus sort of feeling as it goes down. I think this is a bread that really lends itself to having some sort of a lubricative condiment, whether that's mayo or mustard or just fat in general from whatever you're putting on it. I think it benefits greatly from that. I don't know why I get this feeling right in through my esophagus. It reminds me a lot of reflux, but not coming up, just sort of like going down. But I'm going to finish this toast and that bread and be back in 2 hours with the blood glucose results. All right, it's been about 2.5 hours, so let's see what my glucose response was over the 2-hour period after eating this bread. Not bad, and not unexpected. Just a 14-point rise in glucose. As for my thoughts on the bread and the toast as I finish them, definitely I'm a much bigger fan of this bread when toasted, or even better, griddled as a sandwich like a grilled cheese or as French toast. That's where this bread really shines. But it's just a sandwich bread, especially not toasted. I don't know that this would be my go-to bread. There's just something texturally about it that is kind of hard to describe. I mean, the bread itself, the texture seems moist, but when I swallow it, I don't know if it's just too spongy and it's absorbing all the moisture in my esophagus or what. But definitely this bread gets my seal of approval for any sort of griddled application. Next up we have the pizza crust. I measured this. This is 9.5 inches in diameter. Serving size is 1/2 of a pizza. There is 3 grams of total fat, 8 grams of total carbohydrates, of which 6 grams are dietary fiber. It says, so that would be 2 net grams per serving. It says here 4 net grams of carbs per, 4 net grams, yes, 4 net grams of carbs per crust, and 7 grams of protein. Ingredients are water, wheat protein isolate, wheat fiber, wheat gluten flour, modified wheat starch, olive oil, inulin, salt, yeast, and enzymes. So pretty much the same ingredients, I think, across all of their products, probably just varied in ratio. Now, what I'm excited about this particular crust for is because unlike most keto crusts, it's not made with cheese and almond flour or cauliflower or something like that. It's made with wheat products. So hopefully we get more of a true pizza crust out of this. But once again, if you do have issues with wheat or with gluten, that's going to take this off the menu for you. So my plan is to make a pepperoni and sausage pizza out of this. And while I will measure my glucose, I'm going to put a little asterisk next to it and say it is probably meaningless. Unless I see a really, really big spike out of this, I don't think it's going to tell us much, just because the cheese and the meat are going to thoroughly blunt the glucose response. Also, in terms of sauce, what I'm going to be using is some Rayo's Arrabbiata mixed with some tomato paste. That's sort of my low-carb pizza sauce of choice. I'm going to start by par baking the crust for 5 minutes. That will be at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. After 5 minutes, we'll pop this out of the oven. Bring it over to our island here and start topping it up. I like the firmness of this crust. Sauce this up. Back when I worked at a pizza parlor as a teenager, we were told every bite should be a tasty bite, so I sauce and cheese right out to the edges. Add some pepperoni, a little crumbled Italian sausage, and this will go back into the oven for around 10 minutes, give or take. And here it is, looking like a very legit pizza. That's the wife's Boboli pizza right there. She's not doing the low-carb thing with me. So it's very firm. It's not floppy at all. Very hot. I would compare that to a really good frozen pizza. I mean, it's not like a Neapolitan crust or anything like that, but it's very firm. It doesn't taste like fathead dough. It's a really good crust. Like I said, I think the closest I could compare it to is like a really, really good thin crust frozen pizza. Depending on where you live, if you're up in the Great Lakes Midwest area, probably very much like a Jack's pizza. I'm happy with this. All right, let's see what my blood glucose response was to that pizza over the course of 2 hours. Now, I did have 4 pieces, so a serving and a third. And the level software scored this a 9, a stable response. If I go into analyze, I can see that there was only a 9-point glucose change. So, pretty good. One of the neat features of the levels analysis software is you can compare 2 similar foods to each other. Actually, they could be dissimilar, but you can compare any 2 foods to one another and see the graph of the glucose movement. So I'm going to compare the pizza that I made using the Great Low Carb Bread Company crust with one that I had made using cut to carb flatbreads. All right, here we go. So the white graph, hopefully it shows up as white and blue on your screen, but the white is the cut to carb pizza, and you can see that that had a little bit of a spike there, and then the blue is the Great Low Carb pizza. I'm going to click on Cut to Carb, and you can see that that caused a 20-point rise in glucose. So still relatively stable, but 50% more than what it was for the Great Low Carb Bread Company Crust. And if you're curious about continuous glucose monitors and the Levels program, I will include a link down in the description below so you can get more information. So in summary, I continue to be pretty impressed with the products from the Great Low Carb Bread Company. The bread, I had a couple minor issues with. I wish it had more sourdough punch, and again, there's just something about that texture that I struggle with unless the sandwich bread has been griddled. The pizza crust, I can say, is the best that I have had in terms of low-carb commercial pizza crusts. I'm very, very impressed with it. Now, I am not an affiliate marketing partner with Great Low Carb Bread Company, maybe at some point in the future after I've tried more of their products, but I will still put a link down in the description below if you'd like to check out their website, check out their products, etc. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please click that like button. If you're not a subscriber already, tap that subscribe button, then hit the bell to turn on all notifications. And if you missed my earlier review of Great Low Carb Bread Company, I'll pin that right up here. Thanks for watching.